Hello, Internet. The Morgan You Know podcast network presents Balls and Brew.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Balls and Brew podcast here on the Morgan You Know podcasting network. My name is Rod Morgan. I will serve as host this evening. A man who is off this week, but is actually truly never really off because he always has to executively produce this podcast is Jimmy Jamriska. Jimmy is otherwise engaged this evening. We will hear from him next week. But still with me is my guy, the old man. He's down there in Bloomington. He's excited. I don't believe he'll be headed over to Columbus, but all of Bloomington will be having their eyes upon Columbus this weekend. It's Chris King. Chris, hello.
So it's November and there's snow on the ground. So I have to assume Jimmy's like out doing some outdoor track meet or something like that, right? Because it's softball in February. And what was it this summer? That was definitely an indoor winter sport. Who knows what Jimmy has going on.
He's definitely up to something that we would not think he should be up to, but it will definitely involve one of his children. So, Jimmy, we miss you. But joining us to bring football knowledge is our guy, the handicapper, Josh Williams. And quite frankly, folks, we're going to switch things up this week. All right, we're only going to give our guy 2 games, and we're going to handicap a college game, but we're not even going to make him pick the college game. We're just going to handicap it and talk about it because, quite frankly, it's not fair to have him pick the college game because he is just as fired up about the Hoosiers as our guy, Chris. It's Josh Williams. Josh, hello.
What's up, boys? Yeah, another just horrid week last week against the spread, 1-3. We were right on the kitchen sink game from Seattle last week. They got the outright win over San Fran, but lost on Cleveland, running into the Taysom Hill career game. And then also the Raiders-Dolphins game. That game had 16 total points in the first, I want to say 45 minutes of the game, and then the last 20 just exploded for 30 points, like touchdown, 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 touchdown. So, yeah, no good there. So, back to only 2 games. Shame on me for trying to give out 4 picks last week when I've had a rough year against the spread. So,
well, listen, that's why we're riding the roller coaster, right? Last week we tried it by mega sizing, right? Like, remember NBC when they first were having trouble with Thursday night lineups, they just supersized the episodes instead of being 30 minutes, they were like 38. And then everybody was like, no, that's stupid. And so then they're like, okay, why don't we just cut it back down? So we said instead of 4, which is foolish when you're trying to chase wins, we went down to 2. So I like that.
Yeah, I will say too. 2 weeks ago, we forgot to say that the only thing that's been good this year is the wins league for me. I went 7-0 2 weeks ago, and Jimmy totally went over that. Did not put that in the count. So yeah, I have the updated counts if anybody wants to know.
Chris, it's almost as if Jimmy only is interested in talking about the wins league in whichever sport we're talking about when it benefits him. It almost seems as if that's what's happening here.
Yeah, well, when you're the producer, you can drive that ship sometimes to avoid talking about your shortcomings and picks.
That's true. That's true. He's one to admit that don't listen to him when it comes to games, but he likes to try to say that he is the wins league champion no matter what sport it comes to. So we'll see how that all plays out. I'll be honest with you. Jimmy has all of those tabulations. I have absolutely zero clue where the wins league stands at right now. I just have personality and questions. All right. That's what I do. Jimmy does the producing and the tabulating. Chris does the old man takes. Williams does the handicapping. That's how the assignments work around here.
I've got the updated ones.
Excellent. That's why you're a handicapper, my friend. What do you got for us?
All right. Me and you, Rod, we had 4 wins last week.
Let's go.
I'm at 53. You moved into second place with 41.
Wow, 41 though. That's not really. That's one of those second places where, like, sure, I could claim second place, but I'm not really making you sweat it at all.
Jimmy and Chris both had 3 wins last week. Jimmy's up to 40 wins. Chris has 32. I'm worried about Chris's team this week because 4 of his team, half his draft is on a bye this week. And if you look, man, if he doesn't get a win tonight from the Steelers, it might be iffy if he gets a single win this week.
Ouch, week 12, 4 buys. Chris, what were you doing in the draft? You weren't really thinking ahead to that week, were you?
Was not looking at bye weeks, Rod. Definitely was not looking at bye weeks.
Neither was I, so I guess I'm just lucky that I didn't have one that fell on me like that.
So, yeah, that's the update there.
All right, 53-41-40. Jimmy and I, of course, as it has been since our third grade year, locked in a competition tightly. That's how it goes with Jimmy and I. Neither one of us is ever really better than the other. We're just equal, whether it comes to our wits, whether it comes to our intelligence, or whether it comes to our nominal athletic skill that we had back when we were younger. Jimmy and I are always a good matchup. So, all right, let's talk about college. All right, let's talk about college. Then I want to recap a couple of the big games from last week because there were some huge matchups last week. We don't talk too much about what happened. We usually talk about moving forward, but we're going to switch it up this week. We're not going to do any wrestling or basketball. Quite frankly, we could. Chris and I could talk those things for you, but the energy is so much more crackling when we have our guy Jimmy for those. So we're just going to stick to football this week. So we got a little extra room to expand. So Williams, let's go to you. Let's just turn it over to you like we do for an NFL matchup. You handicap this game for us, and then we'll go from there. I'm talking about IU Ohio State. Excuse me. I probably should have done a better job as the host here to tell folks what we were about to do. This is the IU Ohio State game happening at noon on Saturday. Big noon. The Columbus Crew's in town. College game days in town. Let's go.
Yeah, big game. Number 5 IU at number 2 Ohio State. Dove deep for this one here, so got a lot to get to. It's been Ohio State was minus 13.5. It's been bet down to 10 now, and we'll get to why that is here in a second. There is still some 11.5s for Indiana on FanDuel. If by the time of this recording, and if you like the Hoosiers this week, FanDuel is your place to go. Ohio State, number 1 in scoring defense in the country. IU, number 2 in scoring offense in the country. And 2 of the top 3 quarterbacks in regards to passing efficiency rating in this one, in Rourke with IU and Howard with Ohio State. IU is also number 1 in offensive success rate, number 3 in offensive EPA. And here's why I think this line has been bet down in favor of IU moving 3.5 points. The Buckeyes just lost their starting center and their starting left tackle this week in practice. The starting center is huge because he was the one that called out the coverages for Will Howard, the QB. I think, like I said, this is a big reason why we've seen a 3.5 point move just recently, as a couple hours ago. And Ohio State has scored over a touchdown in the first quarter just once this year. This IU team has gotten off to some really quick starts in almost all of their games. IU has faced, but this is the negative though on IU. They have faced 7 offenses that rank outside the top 100 in schedule adjusted efficiency. Captain Obvious checking in here. This is a massive step up in class for the Hoosiers defense. How will they combat with Ohio State's spread offense where they get their best athletes out in space is the big question. One positive for IU here, though, is that even if you adjust for schedule strength, IU's defensive line would still rank top 20 in havoc rate. And when Will Howard gets pressured, he has a turnover-worthy throw every 5%, which is no bueno. So the Hoosiers have to get pressure on Howard on Saturday afternoon in Columbus to have a chance. The Buckeyes, with their top 2 running backs, Henderson and Judkins, they're both top 10 in rushing success rate and explosive run rate. They both average at least 6 yards per carry. They force a missed tackle on 27% of runs. So IU has got to contain that duo as much as they can if they want to pull off the upset. These are the more fun stats here. These next 10 bits are very intriguing. How these teams built their rosters. Check this out. Average star rating of the starters on these teams. IU, 2.3. Ohio State, 4.1. How about the national average ranking of players here? IU, 1,208. Ohio State, 198. So IU has 6 starters that weren't ranked by any recruiting service coming into college. Meanwhile, Ohio State has 6 players that were ranked number 1 at their position coming out of high school. This is the Hoosiers' first 10-win season in program history. The last time IU beat Ohio State was 1988. We have the coach to do it. The question is this moment going to be too much for the Hoosiers in Columbus on Saturday?
Williams, I love that you ended that way because, Chris, I'm going to let you go crazy here as a fan. I know you're excited for this game, but let me frame it to you this way, all right? Williams made mention of it there. We're hearing so much of it from the national pundits right now. I am not trying to rain on the Hoosiers parade, but this is a definite, big-time different opponent than anybody IU has played so far yet this year. This is not, your grandfather's Ohio State team. This is not the CJ Stroud Ohio State team. I understand that as well. But, like, why should we believe this Hoosiers team is going to go in and beat this Ohio State team when it certainly seems the deck is stacked against them, no matter what their undefeated record says?
I mean, you got to beat the people that is put in front of you, Rod, and that's exactly what IU has done. For some reason, these so-called experts out here keep saying Ohio State's the cream of the crop. If you look at the betting lines right now, Ohio State is still the favorite to win the national championship over Oregon, who beat Ohio State. So I don't necessarily agree with these pundits, these so-called experts, because no one picked, myself included, IU to be this much well improved in Cignetti's first year, right? IU fans, we were hoping for a 500 record and beating Purdue. That's our goal as football fans, all right? So this season, no matter what happens this Saturday, is a success as long as we still beat Purdue. All right? That's a big thing. And then if we are able to take this record, whatever it may be, and get into the college playoffs, fantastic. Thank you, because I love every second of it. Now, all that being said, Rod, I know what's going to happen, and I can already tell you what's coming down the pipeline, all right? It is a sequel that was never even thought of until just now, and that's Hoosiers 2, the rise of the underdog IU football program going undefeated and winning the national championship, beating the likes of the Georgias and Alabamas of the world.
All right, there you go. I'm not entirely sure that you addressed my question fully, but you were definitely prepped and ready for a debate, right? You were definitely angry. You definitely had your points you wanted to make. You definitely were trying to steer things different directions. You dropped a couple whataboutisms in there. So you were definitely debate ready there. All right. But I don't necessarily know that you answered my question. Everything you said could absolutely be true, and everything that I said could be true, right? Yes, you can't just magically say, hey, I'm sorry, you're not a good enough opponent that's going to help our RPI. Can we please sub in another one? So IU can only play who's in front of them, but there's also no debating that they have had an easy run compared to a lot of other schools, right? I mean, you just look at the teams that they have beat, Chris, and you look at what they are ranked and what their record is, right? IU has had an easy run of it. That's true. I'm not saying
our schedule had two teams from the national championship game last year, Rod. It's not our fault that fell off.
The numbers are the numbers, though, Chris. The numbers
Michigan,
are the numbers.
I guarantee you, Michigan has those same type of players playing at their program that Ohio State has at theirs. They have the big 4-star and 5-star recruits. They have the number one position players going to play at Michigan. They can't get it done. Like that should not. Indiana should not have to pay the price of other programs' failures.
I'm not saying that they have to pay any price. I'm just saying facts are facts. That's all I was trying to say. And I also prefaced it by saying you were ready for a debate, and you just proved me right again by just jumping right in there and getting incredibly angry and just making piercing points. At any point, Chris, have I told you that I believe the narrative that IU has no chance in this game? I haven't told you that I believe that. I've just said that I think it's fair to point out that IU has played a much easier schedule than a lot of other teams in an undefeated position this late in the year.
Yeah, Rod, you knew this was going to come, though. You're taking this side. I know you're not taking this side, Rod, but I have this anger and this hatred towards these people that are overlooking IU for what we've been able to accomplish and just writing us off.
I hope you're right.
And getting us 10-point underdogs. So the fact that you are playing devil's advocate is meaning that you're going to get my anger directed at you. Of course I'm going to be ready to debate you no matter what you say.
That's very true. Williams, let's spin forward to the end of this game. We all know what Chris thinks is going to happen. We all know what I think is going to happen, and I'll just go ahead and say it here. I think it's a great story for IU, but I think this is like, hi, Cinderella, thanks for coming to the ball, but it's midnight now, and your pumpkin's going to become a pumpkin again, and your glass slipper's going to get lost. I just think that's what's going to happen here. But, Williams, do you believe, like so many others believe, if IU loses this game, they are over and done with? Or do you still believe there's a chance they're one of the 12 teams, even if they lose?
Yeah, that's what's so wild about this game is that if IU gets blown out, they're probably not making the playoff. if they win this game and then beat Purdue and then beat Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, they're the number one overall seed in the playoffs. So you talk about, the wave of emotion here with this game. God, I don't want to pick this game because I just want to watch it as a fan. I think
that's why I asked you the question that I asked you. Can IU make the tourney if they lose?
Yes, I think if they keep it within this number,
okay,
I think they can make it.
So you do think style points are definitely involved here. If the Hoosiers lose by a field goal or a touchdown, we're talking way different than if it's 14, 20, 21.
Especially if Ohio State then goes on and beats Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, that'll look even better. But yeah, it's close. There's going to be a lot of talk about whoever loses the SEC championship game. That team's probably going to have 3 losses. Do you take that team over a 1-loss IU or a 1-loss Penn State, assuming that Penn State doesn't lose to Minnesota this week, which is not out of the question. So yeah, there's a lot of football still left to be played. Just what Chris said, to have Indiana in the thick of this with 2 weeks left in regular season is fantastic. I will give you a future bet too though. I'm just saying this right now. If IU loses to Ohio State, remember what Curt Cignetti said at the basketball press conference, or that wasn't even a press conference. He was just the basketball halftime. He said Purdue sucks, and that got the crowd all riled up. If IU loses to Ohio State and it's borderline whether or not they're going to get in, he is going to want to put up a huge number on Purdue the following week to try and get as many style points as possible. I would be running to bet IU in that game. I don't even care if the number's 30, 35 or more. I could see Cignetti hanging a huge number on Purdue the following week, like a 70 burger on Purdue, and they are capable of doing that. He is confident. He is borderline cocky. He will run up the score if it's for something that for IU to get into the playoffs. He will do that.
But this is Purdue's season, right? This is Purdue's season. They love nothing more than to rub the Hoosiers' face in it, right? Especially Cignetti after saying what he said, right? Come on, they're gonna if Purdue has it in them to give one more effort, it's gonna be when they play in the old Oaken Bucket game, Chris. I'd be a little worried about that one.
Yeah, listen, if we lose to Ohio State in this scenario that Williams laid out, I do believe Purdue's in for a world of hurt. I don't think we are as concerned about Purdue at that point in time. I think we make an example of them. I'm hoping no matter what, Cignetti keeps that type of fire that he had at the basketball game last year in the locker room before this Purdue game, no matter what happens with Ohio State. Like I said, as IU fans, beating Purdue is our number one criteria for a successful season, all right? Everything after that is a cherry on top. Basketball, we also like the championships, but it's been a while. So it's beating Purdue. So that's what we got to do.
All right, there you have it. That's our sojourn into college football for this week. Go Hoosiers. Don't get me wrong. Go Hoosiers. I would love nothing more than for the Hoosiers to win this game and to be in the national championship picture. And I'd love it for somehow Notre Dame and Indiana to play each other in the college football championship. That would be absolutely awesome, right? Like, don't get me wrong here. I'm not a fool. I love cool stories.
And Indiana taking over college football. Whoa.
Look out. Come on, hold on. Speaking of cool stories, let's tell the story of at least 2 big games that happened last week. I know Williams has a few things he wants to say about Pittsburgh v. Baltimore, so we'll get to that one. But the biggest game was probably Kansas City Buffalo. And Chris, your guy, the chippy Josh Allen, he finally, well, I guess not finally. They tend to beat him often in the regular season, but Buffalo got over the hump and looks like they're just as good as anybody else in the AFC right now. No, Chris?
Yeah, I think it showed the rest of the teams in the AFC that Kansas City is beatable. And I think we've seen that. Williams mentioned they've been pretty lucky. I don't like that stat, but I think they have been because they haven't been as good on offense. That being said, Josh Allen is the man, right? I mean, he proved it again that he can do it all, and when needed, he will do it all.
Mr. Williams, do you think Josh Allen is the MVP front runner now? Because we'll talk about Lamar. It didn't go as well for him versus Pittsburgh as he would have liked. And then Josh gets the big CBS late game. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo in attendance, and his team wins. What do you got to say about that game?
Yeah, I was of course, how the season's been going for me. ATS, I was on Kansas City plus 2.5. They were covering up until that 4th and 2 play, and McDermott decides to go for it, which was the right decision. I'm not even saying that because Josh Allen, scored a touchdown on that, but you put the ball in Josh Allen's hands there, and he scampered for a 22-yard rushing touchdown. So covering, and Jim Nantz called it the play of the year. So, yeah, went up against the play of the year, evidently. So, yeah, Josh Allen should probably be a short favorite over Lamar just because Lamar is not leading his division. And these vote getters love to give it to the 1 or 2 seed in either conference. So, and Mahomes really hasn't had that great a year this year. So it's been more the defense. I still trust Kansas City in the playoffs. I know Josh Allen has never beat Kansas City in the playoffs, and I just trust the Spags and Andy Reid and Mahomes in the playoffs. But this Buffalo team continues to overachieve this year. So they've been proving me wrong all year.
Yeah, Chris, I kind of feel like Kansas City kept a few things in the bag, right? Like they understand that they're going to be playing them again. They play in the long game at this point. They've won 2 straight Super Bowls, and kind of like Buffalo really wanted that game. So I'm kind of with Williams. I'm not stepping off of Kansas City still the team to beat in the AFC, but Buffalo did impress me.
There's a reason why Andy Reid's probably one of the best, if not one of the best coaches in the NFL right now, because he understands that this game meant a whole lot more to Buffalo than it did Kansas City at this period of time. Kansas City doesn't have a real threat in their division. Right now, Buffalo doesn't either in theirs, but Buffalo hasn't had the success in the playoffs against Kansas City. And that's where Andy Reid knows that it may come down to that again this year.
I was going to say, if you're Buffalo, you want to try to close that gap to see if you can get the game, in Orchard Park, right? If the playoff game comes, and you just got one step closer to being able to pull that off. So congrats there. And let's go to the 6 field goal masterpiece by the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin, my guy. He somehow gets it done all the time. You never want to count Tomlin out when his quarterback Russ finally starts playing like the Russ Wilson we all thought he was going to play like when we thought Tomlin was crazy for bringing him back into the game. Russ turns into a pumpkin again, and it doesn't matter. Chris Boswell kicks 6 field goals, and that Pittsburgh Steelers defense beats Lamar again, Mr. Williams. What's going on with that?
Yeah, Boswell kicks 6 field goals and Tucker misses 2. I mean, it's Mike Tomlin magic, man. But yeah, we talked about how good Lamar is versus the NFC in his career. He's 23-1. That number is still crazy. How about this? Lamar is 17-5 versus the state of Ohio. So the other 2 teams in that division, but he's only 1-4 versus Pittsburgh. They say those numbers don't really add up. It's because Lamar has only played in 4 of the 10 team games versus the Steelers, whether it be injury or illness or rest for the Week 18 games. So he's missed 6 games in that Steelers series, and no team has more drastic splits when not facing too high coverage compared to when they do see it than Baltimore. The Ravens are by far the best offense passing on early downs against too high coverage. Why is that important? Tomlin, the Steelers don't play too high. They play a lot of man with blitzes behind. Lamar has done a great job versus zone blitzes this year, but he still struggles versus man blitzes. And so that's kind of the behind the scenes reasoning why the Steelers have so much success against Lamar here. And by the way, the Chargers play the highest rate of too high coverage in the league. So look for, if they don't make any adjustments, look for Lamar to bounce back on Monday night here in the Harbaugh game. So,
back-to-back Harbaughs for our guy Lamar right now. It's the Harbaugh double dip is what he's on right now. The NFL gauntlet, if you will. There,
yeah.
Bring Jack Harbaugh back. Maybe he'll be able to beat Lamar's team. Is Jack still with us? Sorry if Jack's not still with us. I apologize. He's probably not. Jack and Jim are pretty old. Their dad's probably not still around. All right, that's enough on that game because the Steelers, Williams, earmuffs. I know you don't like to know what's going on with the Thursday night game while we're taping, but the Steelers are losing to the Browns right now. So I'm not telling you at what point of the game, Williams, but they're losing to the Browns right now. That's happening. So the Steelers are still not looking like world beaters at times because that's what Mike Tomlin does, right? They're never going to look like the greatest, roll like a big wheel, cut like a big knife. That's not what the Steelers do.
I've heard, I heard one stat today that was crazy. Tomlin's 0-7 on the road Thursday night in his career. Like, Tomlin's stats are just insane. When he's an underdog, he's insane. You want to bet him when he's an underdog. And then these other random stats where he's just like 0-7 on the road on Thursday nights. You're like, what is going on? So he's got some of the most wild split stats I've ever seen for a coach.
Tomlin's a regiment guy, right? Chris Tomlin's a process guy, so he gets thrown off when he's got Thursday night games. That's what that says to me.
Yeah, I mean, you hear a lot of things about the early games, and after a big division game, you have a short week, and you have to turn around and go on the road to another big division game. A lot of hatred between Cleveland and Pittsburgh.
That is another one of your hobby horses. You always do point out divisional games. You love the West Coast teams going to the East Coast, and you love divisional games. Those are your two favorite things. The way that Williams loves Vita Vea, you love those two things.
AFC North games are also a bit different. Let's be honest, all right? Those games, there's a little bit more violence in those games. There's a little bit more animosity in those games. And that's with all four teams, no matter who they're playing. So those take a lot. And to have two of those with a short week is going to be rough.
It most certainly will. Let's see what comes out for the Ravens this week. We'll see. You'll know what happens with the Steelers by the time this podcast comes out, so we won't belabor that point. Williams, you'll still be surprised as well. I didn't spoil anything for you other than one particular point during the game, and you don't even know which particular point during the game that is. So let's move on to your picks this week. And a nice thing about your picks this week is it dovetails with something else that we normally do here as we talk about the local squads. Your two picks this week happen to involve the Colts and the Bears. And let's just start with the Colts because it's my podcast and the Colts are my team. And Chris, you point out all the time that I love to do nothing more than pat myself on the back. And I was stone cold right about Anthony Richardson. I called this idiotic from the start. I'm not saying you didn't. So the way that you weren't debating with me earlier when you were angry and yelling at me, I'm not debating with you right now, but I'm still just using you as a straw man for people who did disagree with me here. But it's crazy to think that, yeah, a guy 10 starts into his NFL career was going to be playing a little bit up and down. So this reeks of Jim Irsay, Chris. It didn't work out 2 straight weeks. Somebody got the old man to crazy and calm down. Anthony Richardson came back in and looked like the guy we think he can be. And so, things are looking good again in Colts land.
Yeah, it was a nice bounce back game for him. We may not know, though, Rod, if this wasn't the thing that, shook him straight or made him realize that he had to knuckle down and do some stuff. I mean, I think it was
so old school. You're so old school. You're like that old SNL sketch where Jason Sudeikis was the guy who would be the cop yelling at Kenan Thompson. You think that actually works on people, don't you?
The problem was when he asked to be taken out after that play, right? A quarterback doesn't do that. That gives the wrong message to the rest of the team, and you're supposed to be a captain. Something had to be done to remedy that issue, and I think it was a little excessive to bench him for 2 games and not make him be the starter, but I just hope that this continues. We saw a much improved accurate passer, right? 66%.
Yeah.
Let's keep that going.
That's what
I want to see. I want to see downfield throws, and I want to see it be accurate.
Let's relax. It's still a roller coaster ride with AR. That's fine. We're still fine. But Williams, we were told that he was set down because Joe Flacco gave the Colts a better chance to win, right? I mean, that was the narrative the Colts tried to spin to us. Or do you agree with Chris that ultimately he sat down because he tapped out and it was probably a good thing for him? Or do you agree with me that this was just crazy Irsay and the owner said this is how it had to be and so they had to make it be that way for 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think it was kind of just Ballard trying to save his job, honestly. And yeah,
you went door number 3 on me right there. That's what you did. You went door number 3 on me right there. I was like Monty Hall on old Let's Make a Deal, and I was like, Williams, do you want A or do you want B? And you're like, no, I'm going to hold out until you pull out the $50 bill that you got in your pocket. That's what you held out for right there.
The pressure from the media, I still say, yeah. We all three of us, I think, were on the Richardson should still be playing, though.
Well, that's true. That's true. None of us were against it. And I'm not even sure Jimmy was, but there was definitely people out there that were against it. AR played, Colts win. Their playoff chances are alive. But alas, they run into the buzzsaw that is the Detroit Lions this week. So, Williams, what do you got for us on this?
Yeah, I'll start this handicap by saying sometimes in NFL betting, you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that should tell you who I'm taking with this pick. I'm going with the Colts plus 7.5.
I like it.
Minus 115, widely available. I'll tell you why. Since 2003, there have been 40 instances where a team is averaging 33 plus points per game and they have a 90% winning percentage. So it's the question of who wants to fade those teams. Those teams have covered in their next game only 12 times. This is the peak of the market for Detroit here. And Goff versus man coverage has been outstanding this year. 9 touchdowns, no picks with a passer rating of 140 plus. Goff versus zone coverage, only 7 touchdowns, 9 picks with a passer rating below 90. The Colts play more zone than any other team in the league. You guys know this. We talked about this on the pod. The Lions also lost Aiden Hutchinson a few weeks ago. They just lost Alex Anzalone, their green dot linebacker, Rod. We know how important those guys are. And in years past, we've mentioned this on the pod too before. Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for Detroit, his defenses have historically had major problems containing running athletic quarterbacks because of the way they rush the passer. They get up the field. Hello, Anthony Richardson. And when Anthony Richardson starts, the Colts are 6-1 against the spread. I bet you can win all the monies in the world with that bar bet. I challenge our tens of listeners to go to a bar, take that bar bet, make that bar bet. You will instantly get credit whatever bar you're at present at. Now, whether you get paid or not is a whole other thing, but nobody's going to guess that Anthony Richardson 6-1 against the spread for the Colts. The Lions blasted the all-out quit Jags last week by 46. And remember, they have a short week on deck when they host a division rival in the Bears on Thanksgiving next week. If there is ever going to be a letdown spot for Detroit, it's after a game where everybody and their grandma is telling them how great they are before a big primetime national holiday island game against a division opponent. Now they go out of conference on the road to face an average Colts team. Finally, how about these last 2 stats? Teams that won by 35 points plus the previous week and then are favored by more than 4 the following week are only 23-37 against the spread since 2003. That's only 38%. And the Colts, when they have been home dogs of 7 points or more over the last 30 years, they're 7-1 against the spread. 10 out of the Colts' 11 games this year have been decided by one possession. That's all the Colts do is play one possession games. Give me the Colts plus 7.5 on Sunday.
I'll tell you what, the Colts under Shane Steichen only play close games. They played a bunch of close games last year. The Colts in their history, even under the bumbling, fumbling, stumbling Jim Irsay, they tend to win games in Indianapolis that they're not supposed to, right? So, Williams, I absolutely love that pick. I'll tell you what else you said there. Goff versus the zone, not great. Definitely all Gus Bradley is going to do is play the zone. And the Colts have a guy who works really, really well in the zone and I think actually can cause some trouble for Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that's Kenny Moore. Kenny Moore works well in the middle of the field. He works well with guys trying to work out of the slot and cut across the slants and things of that nature. So I don't necessarily think the Colts can beat the Lions here, Chris. I got to be honest, but I'm with Williams, and I think this game is going to be a lot closer than people think.
One thing we know about Detroit is their games are fun to watch. We have seen them throw 5 interceptions and still win a game. We've seen them blow someone out by 45 plus points. Like, we have seen Detroit play exciting games for a few years now. I am a fan, Rod, so I'm rooting for my Colts. I want them to win. Even if I'm a little bit torn because Detroit is essentially the only pick I have gotten right this year in any of our division picks. So, like, I want Detroit to keep winning, but I want the Colts to beat them. What I am worried about, though, Rod, is not Jared Goff. It's not what we do in the secondary. It's not what Anthony Richardson does. It's what Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery is going to do to us. That's 1,400 yards and 18 touchdowns this year already, and we aren't good against the run.
That's a very good point. We have not brought up the big. That's an underutilized part of Detroit's team, right? Is that you think about Goff and all the touchdown passes he throws, and he's got some flashy wide receivers, but they run the ball. When it comes down to it, David Montgomery gets the hard yards, and Jahmyr Gibbs is lightning quick out there on the outside. I forgot. You're right. The Lions can run it up, Williams. So make me feel better about the Colts keeping it close against this Lions running attack.
Yeah, that's the tough part. That's the tough part. They gotta control the time of possession. JT and Anthony Richardson, they have to get chunk yardage when they're on offense. They have to control the ball. Detroit wants to control the ball, so you try to get them, to play more defense than offense.
Which I got to be honest with you, that's tough. I can't see AR engineering a bunch of 9 to 12 play drives, right? Like I can't see him doing a whole lot of that for the Colts. So can we beat the Lions getting big chunk plays? Because their secondary at times can be a little suspect. Because I think that's a little more what AR is better at.
Yeah, so Josh Downs has an advantage here in the slot against Terrion Arnold. That's where if Richardson can just be accurate with Downs, I think there is a chance where he can have some big plays against Detroit's secondary. And like we said before, one of the 16 Colts tight ends should be open in the middle of the field against Detroit. Okay,
but the chances of that Colts tight end catching the ball pretty slim.
Yeah. So yeah.
Bring back Jack Doyle. That's basically what I'm saying here, Williams. All right? Bring back Jack Doyle is basically what I'm saying. Because whether it's Kaylani Woods or whether it's our guy Dax's dude, Kyle Granson, the tight ends don't impress me for the Indianapolis Colts. So if the tight ends factor into the recipe for the Colts winning, I'm nervous.
Quick question, Williams. You talked about this being uncomfortable or whatever with this bet. Where, and it's at 7.5, you said?
Yeah.
You got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, Chris. Come on, listen.
Yes. So where do you draw that line at? Let's say it starts going down. When it gets to 6.5, are you making that switch, or where does that uncomfortability stop?
Yeah, I think whenever you see a line, if it goes from 7.5 and it goes under the key number of 7 and it gets to 6.5, that's when I think you would see professional bettors jump back on Detroit here. So yeah, what the key numbers are 7 and 3. If there's ever a line where it's like 3.5 and it goes down to 2.5 or vice versa, 6.5 to 7.5, that means there's some major money coming in on that side. And a lot of the sharps they don't bet teams, they bet numbers. So once they see 6.5, they would probably jump back on Detroit here. So
where's the money at on this game, and where's the bets at on this game? Like how many people are actually moving money to the Colts on this?
Yeah, there's been more public money on Detroit. I mean, Joe Public doesn't want to get in front of the freight train that is the Detroit Lions. So you have seen some sharp money on the Colts at +8 and +7.5 here. There hasn't been a whole lot of line movement on this game.
There you have it. Speaking of sharps, a team that looked sharp last week and surprised the heck out of me. I got to admit, even though I was driving the Bears train and I thought that the Bears were going to win the NFC North this year, looked like I'm going to be wrong on that one. But I also thought maybe the Bears had quit and given up on their head coach, and Caleb Williams was a little overmatched. And then all of a sudden, the Bears were lining up for a field goal, and they were going to beat the Packers, Williams, and it just didn't quite work out. But as much as I don't love awarding moral victories, I have to say your Bears showing up last week really kind of impressed me. I didn't think that they'd do that for the rest of this year.
You led me right into this, Rod, and I told people, watch out. I know they were terrible the previous 2 or 3 weeks, but if they had any pride at all, they would show up and at least put up a fight against Green Bay. And I honestly think they outplayed Green Bay. But Green Bay had the blocked field goal and got the win late. I am going to call me a homer. I'm going to take the Bears +3.5 against the Vikings. This is the Vikings' third straight road game. I remember a couple years ago when Cincinnati was blasting teams. They went on the road, their third straight road game, to the lowly New York Jets. Everyone thought they were going to win by 1 million. They not only did not cover, they did not win that game.
That was Zach Wilson, right? The same Zach Wilson who has more wins as a Jet quarterback than the sainted Aaron Rodgers. That's a stat that I heard today that I absolutely loved.
Yes. Yes. And so whenever you have a third straight road game, it's tough. And plus, this is a division game. And got to say, I'm with you, Rod. I was encouraged by what I saw last week from the interim OC from Bears, Thomas Brown. One, he used more play action. Two, he called more design QB runs for Caleb. Three, he gave DeAndre Swift more carries to the outside where he has had more success in his career. Four, he got the ball into DJ Moore's hands more often with getting him involved in the screen game. And five, finally, what a novel idea. They used their big power back, Roshan Johnson, at the goal line. So these are all plus EV moves. Don't know when the last time you could say that about a Bears offense. So the Bears actually inputting analytics into their game plan. Welcome to 2024, Bears. I mean, and nice to see you. So they got their offensive tackles back in Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright, which was big because Caleb had his lowest pressure rate since week 5 with those two guys back. The Bears posted a 49% offensive success rate in the game, which would rank with the top offenses in the league this season. And Caleb had really good yards per attempt average, and completion percentage over expectation numbers last week. He now gets a Brian Flores defense that is going to bring the blitz at a high rate. So how does he respond? Last week against the Pack, Caleb was 8 for 10 against the blitz with one big-time throw added in. Thomas Brown gave him more outs to be aware of when Green Bay did bring the pressure. And on the other side of the ball, the Bears D is quietly having a fantastic season. They're number 2 against the pass in EPA per play. We've seen Darnold taper off recently, only putting up 12 points against the Jags and 23 against the Titans. And dating back to last year, guys, this Bears D has not given up more than 20 points at home in their last 11 games. And so now we're getting 3.5 points. That hook is huge. Now, I know the Vikings have the massive coaching advantage with O'Connell and Flores, and that can't be denied. That is concerning. But one thing that I was very happy to hear, because I know a lot of people think that Caleb Williams has a bad attitude. I've told people he does not have a bad attitude. He's just a weird guy. And this confirms it. When Shane Waldron was fired, he got up in front of the locker room and said, "This is on me, guys. This is my fault." And I cannot tell you how much that played well to the veterans in the locker room. And you saw that out on the field. I think now the Bears can actually move forward and hopefully put up a big fight against the Vikings here, division game on Sunday.
Whenever I hear somebody described as a weird guy, I always think back to Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, where Dan Marino asks Ace Ventura for some gum, and Ace says, "No, and I thank you to stay out of my personal affairs." And Dan Marino fires back at him, "You're a weird guy, Ace, a weird guy." I just think of that every time somebody says a weird guy. But you're right? It's like I'll just call myself out here. I'm almost 45 years old, Williams. I know you're a little bit younger than me. We all know Chris is a lot older than both of us. So, we are looking, like old men yelling at clouds sometimes, right? But a guy like Caleb Williams just goes about his business differently than we do, right? He comes from a different generation. He finds different things entertaining. He has different values. You know what I mean? Like it's hard for people to square sometimes. And so it comes out in things like, oh, he's not real about football, or, oh, he's a prima donna. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't care about the Bears. He only cares about himself. Well, like, name me a professional athlete in 2024 that doesn't care about themselves, right? I mean, like, it's just the industrial complex that we have created by paying these guys so much money that, like, they're going to be a little detached. They're going to be a little weird. They're going to be a little, not necessarily thinking that things are their fault. So I, like you, Williams, when I hear one of these guys that's put in one of these positions to be able to never say I did something wrong, to be able to always blame someone else, and to be able to always constantly be propped back up, for them to step up and say, "Hey, my bad. I'm doing something wrong. I need to switch it up." I loved hearing that. And Chris, we're not going to get to basketball this week, but it sounds like a guy named Joel Embiid could take a little bit of that for himself and step up and say, "I'm doing some things wrong and I need to show some accountability."
Listen, anytime that any person, whether they're a professional athlete, a coworker, a friend of yours, or anybody is willing to take accountability, that's what you want to see. You want to see people step up, say, "Yes, I made these mistakes. This is my plan moving forward to remedy these mistakes and not let them happen again." That's what you want to see in leadership. That's what you want to see in a person you want to have as your team captain, for sure. So yeah, of course, if you're a Bears fan, you got to love that. I'm not a Bears fan, Rod. So let me go ahead and tear apart everything that Williams has brought up to say the Bears are going to win. Let's start with this Cincinnati Bengals New York Jets game that he brought up about third game on the road. There's a big difference though here, Williams. This is a division game, all right. This isn't some lowly non-division other conference rival or whatever. This is Vikings Bears, all right. If you can't get up for a divisional road game, then you don't deserve to be in the NFL. And the Minnesota's going to be there, all right, because you got a team in Minnesota that has a top 10 defense, a top 10 offense, all right? A team that's only allowing 17 points per game. And as much as this accountability and this leadership that you're seeing from Caleb Williams is, the Bears offense just doesn't produce that. You get 170 yards passing per game. All right, you're scoring 18 points per game. That's going to be tough to win a division game when you can't even get to 20 points.
We'll always remember the way you thrilled the nation with your T formation. Bear down, Chicago Bears. Let's go, Bears. Come on. Williams, you made only a slight mention of it during your handicap of this game, and it is all that matters, okay? Sam Darnold. I'm going to go Cinderella again here, folks. 2 Cinderella references in one podcast. But Sam Darnold is turning into a pumpkin again. It was a wonderful story at the beginning of the year, but we are starting to see how Williams, you talk about this so often, play calling matters. Sam Darnold is being propped up by Kevin O'Connell and being helped out tremendously by that Brian Flores defense. And in the last couple of weeks, teams have started catching up to that. I heard a prominent NFL podcaster make a bold prediction that Ryan Tannehill ends the year as the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings because O'Connell gets sick and tired of seeing Sam Darnold throwing these picks. So I love the Bears. I just sang Bear Down. Put me down for the Bears. Put me down for the Colts not winning but covering. Williams, I'm absolutely with you on your picks this week.
Let's go. Let's go Bears. And Chris, they don't have to win. It's plus 3.5.
I was actually going to throw that at Chris as well. I was like, I don't think Williams said the Bears were going to win. They just have to lose by a field goal or less.
I will say, if the Bears are going to win one of these division games that is backloaded, they got 6 division games in the last 8 games. I think it's the Vikings at home that they can get.
Chris, do you want to sing? Do you want to sing a verse of "Bear Down, Chicago Bears" for our listeners?
No.
Do you want to sing? Do you want to sing a Dallas Cowboy song in honor of Cooper Rush getting another start?
You want to know what an interesting fact I heard today is even though the Bears have been around for a good 6 or 7 decades longer than the Cowboys, you guys only got 3 more Hall of Famers than the Cowboys do.
Wow, look at this, Williams. He's going back to the Hall of Famers. He's thinking of Troy Aikman and Jay Novacek and Emmitt Smith,
Tony Dorsett, Ed Too Tall Jones.
Listen to him. Because heaven forbid the Cowboys take a look at Trey Lance, a guy you spent a 4th round pick on a couple of years ago. Heaven forbid you play that guy in a season that's completely toasted. All right, fine, Chris, let's get into this. Do you want Coach Prime? Do you want Coach Prime riding in on his Buffalo to save your Cowboys like your guy Michael Irvin's calling for right now?
I mean, listen, this is what I'm going to say. I am a fan of a franchise, Rod, that no matter what, every single year, I know they are going to try to be successful. I know that they're not going to be tanking next year. It doesn't matter who they bring in, as long as is not one formerly employed by a Robert Kraft type coach. As long as it's not one of those guys, I'll be fine.
Listen, Chris, you don't have anything to worry about, okay? Deion's not coming to Dallas. Belichick isn't coming to Dallas, okay? Because both of those dudes need their space to shine, all right? And the one thing that's going to happen when you're the Dallas Cowboys coach, you ain't the one shining. Jerry with his big porcelain veneers and his $1,000 suits, all right? Yeah. The guy in the $4,000 suit's going to hold the door open for a guy who doesn't make that in a year. Come on, all right? Jerry Jones is absolutely not letting anybody else shine down there. So Coach Prime ain't going, all right? You guys might get Shador. You might get Shedeur Sanders, but you ain't getting Coach Prime, and it's probably for the best. Because let's be honest, I love me some Dion, but he's probably more bluster than he actually is good football coach.
Oh, if he uses the coach in Dallas, he would be on TV all the time. That's all anybody would talk about. More people out there would hate Dallas even more than they do already.
Yeah, but a lot of people hate Coach Prime. So, like Williams, let's have you weigh in on this. You're a coach guy. You're a college guy. You don't think Dion's going anywhere, right? And certainly not the Cowboys.
Well, here's the thing. Jerry's 82, and he wants Dallas to be relevant. I got to tell you, if they hire Dion, they are relevant, and they will be talked about. Now, can they get a package deal? I've heard the Cowboys and the Raiders want both Sanders to come. So, I don't know. We'll see. On one part, I can see it, but on the other hand, it's like Jerry he has that ego where he just can't take it with Dion being the coach, and so I don't know how it would play.
I don't know if Dion is included in our tens of listeners, but Dion, if you are and you have the choice between Dallas and Las Vegas, go to Dallas. All right. As much as I give Jerry Jones guff, go to Dallas because Jerry Jones let Jason Garrett coach that team for 9 years. All right. He let Jason Garrett coach that team for 9 years. How many coaches has Mark Davis gone through in the Raiders in the past couple of years? All right. Like it might look cool for a little while. You know, you're in Vegas, you get to swing in and you're the big hero in town. But Mark Davis and his terrible haircut seems to be a terrible owner. Jerry Jones will at least give people a chance. Mike McCarthy's been your coach for a bunch of years now, Chris. Like, say what you will about Jerry Jones. He doesn't like firing people.
Yeah, he gives coaches a chance. You got to give him that, and at least we don't have that carousel like they do in some other franchises, a la Washington or Carolina.
Oh, Carolina. Williams, you got any other NFL nuggets for us here before we close up shop?
Well, what's crazy is that we forgot to get to the future wager last week, and then I listened to the Simmons and Cousin Sal podcast the following Monday, and they gave out the same future wager that I was going to give out,
Nice.
but they gave it out. They gave it out at a worse number, but it was only because that game had already been played on Sunday. So my future wager, and it would have been one you would have loved, Rod. We could still give it out. It's just a bad number. Is the Bucks to come back and win the division? I was going to give that out at plus 650. And they were giving it out on the BS podcast at plus 500. They looked at the schedule and were like, these guys got the Giants. They got Dallas. They got Carolina. They got the Saints. They do have one tough game against the Chargers. Like, this is doable for the Bucks. And Atlanta, they cannot generate any pressure on the defensive side of the ball. And so plus 650, I thought that was good. This number has come all the way down to plus 275 on Caesars and DK. You can still find it plus 375 on ESPN Bet. That's the best number out here right now. But Bucks, I got it at plus 675, plus 650. I hate giving out a worse number, but I think there's still value there. I think the Bucks can win this division.
Listen, I'll take the L on that one. But I do love that we get a continued tradition of you having a good future bet that we meant to say on the podcast and we forgot to tell people about. So we've continued that tradition another year. So that's absolutely wonderful. I'm excited to hear that. And speaking of my guy Baker, did you guys catch the story about how Baker donated, I think, like $17,500 to a Texas high school football program to help them buy equipment, and then that team went on to be able to continue having a program and won the state championship? So shout out to my guy Baker, right? Doing good things. Not only throwing touchdowns, Chris, but doing good things.
Yeah, so it's almost like an American version of Welcome to Wrexham, right?
Absolutely, man. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I'm going to agree with you.
That was Ryan Reynolds buying the Welsh soccer team, and then all of a sudden they get promoted.
Ah, okay, cool. So it's about soccer. Gotcha. All right, Ryan Reynolds. That's Deadpool, right?
Yeah, that's Deadpool.
Van Wilder, man. Van Wilder.
Yeah, listen, I know him as Van Wilder. I named my son Van after his wonderful work in that movie, all right? That's why a lot of people say, you named your son Van after Van Morrison? I'm like, nope, we're big Ryan Reynolds fans around here, all right? We enjoyed Cal Penn's work in Van Wilder. I especially love Tara Reid in Van Wilder, all right? So that's my son Van is named after
her last
Ryan
great
Reynolds,
role, Rod.
Yeah, definitely. Well, a lot of people would say Sharknado, and those people are wrong.
I said great role. Sharknado was a great movie with bad roles.
There you go. Great movie with bad roles. And this is what you come to this podcast for, folks, is us ending on Sharknado. I can think of no better way to go out. All right. This has been Balls and Brew here on the Morgan You Know Podcasting Network. I don't do this as often as I should, but please, the dozen of you out there, do us a favor. Like, comment, subscribe on whatever platform you happen to be listening to this. All right. We got no video on YouTube this week, but we still have the audio podcast that we've been at for years now, right, Chris? We've been at this thing for what? 4 or 5 years now we've been doing this thing?
I think it's pushing 5 years now, Rod.
Yeah, we all we ask, we don't charge you anything. We don't have a Patreon account where we're asking you to give money, right? We're not even telling you go click on this link. We're not making you do any of that. All we need you to do is comment, like, and subscribe. Comment, like, and subscribe. That will move this up the charts just a little bit for those curious folks out there in podcast land that are like, hey, look at this. Here's a football show. Oh, all right. These guys have a little bit of fun. Let me check this out. And then, bam, they're hooked and they get part of the Morgan You Know universe. And Chris, what else can they hear when they listen to the Morgan You Know Podcasting Network?
You have the Yeah We Know podcast, the preeminent heat index of the WWE in all the planet Earth, and not to mention the fastest 15 minutes in all of NBA podcasts. It is the Fast Break with Jimmy, Rod, and Chris.
That is right. We will be back to basketball next week. We will be back to wrestling next week. Jimmy will be back next week. Williams will be back on his winning ways next week. All right. I don't often make the guarantee that Williams will win, but I got a good feeling about this. And Chris, one more time with heart for all the people down there in Bloomington. Let's hear it before we go out.
Go Hoosiers. In Fleming is a national treasure. Goodbye, Internet.
Go Hoosiers, go Bears.